Nice enough to join us now with more on all that. NBC Sports Bay Area Warrior pre- and post-game host. She's on podcast. Pleasure to welcome Kerith Burke back to the show. Kerith, I hate to put you on the spot, but we got to do this to start.
Man.
Dibs and I have a disagreement over MVP. I think it's Jokic. Dibs thinks it's Embiid. We just, we got to get this out of the way. I'm not sure whether you have a vote or not. If you do, which way are you going, Kerith?
Well, first of all, guys, do I have to honk like a goose to be on this show?
It would be cool if you did.
Everybody's doing it. You don't have to, but everybody's doing it. Yeah.
What do you think of the moniker? There it is. I think she's in favor of the nickname, Whitey.
Nice. Well done.
Okay, listen.
Yeah.
MVP, first of all, can we just celebrate that we have a race this close, that we have this kind of talent, that they both happen to be big men? I think that's really great for the league. I honestly don't have strong feelings one way or another. I think Embiid's case has gotten a lot louder maybe since the All-Star break, but I think if push came to shove, I would still say it's Nikola Jokic. He's averaging a triple-double. Like, his effective field goal rate is the highest. And I do think that the Nuggets don't get the same kind of exposure that the East Coast teams have. So that's a little bit like you can't see him as much. You just kind of have to know that he's good. But he's good, and it would be really cool to see somebody win it 3 years in a row.
That's just a strong answer.
Great
Too
answer.
strong, actually.
Yeah.
It's Kerith and Whitey here on 95.7 The Game. I'll go get a cup of coffee because I can't hang with that level of analysis. This Warriors team, Kerith, I know that you've been tracking it so closely through 80, but what do you make of how this is going to end over the next two, and what you think their real chances are, their effective playoff chances, so to speak, going forward?
Oh, my goodness. All right, well, first of all, your colleague, John Dickinson, helped map this out because it's crazy. Even with 2 games left, all the scenarios that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
If the Warriors win out, and I think they will, and I know tomorrow's game is going to be very tough, but they'll land at the 6th seed. And whoever they play first should be nervous. The playoff Warriors are a different brand. I'm not sure. I look at this team and I see how much they've been average this season, how much they've been a 500 team, and that their defense has been weaker than in previous seasons. So I think their championship pedigree and the fact that they're defending a championship, I would never count them out in the postseason, but I do want to acknowledge something that the Warriors say themselves, that winning a championship is incredibly hard, and the Warriors have done some things that have made their season harder. The fouling, the turnovers, the lack of defense. So I just don't know. I don't have a feeling yet. I really want to see how they do in that first round.
Kerith Burke with us here. Willard and Dibs, Whitey in for Willard, 95.7 The Game. Kerith, just full disclosure, I've been very critical at times of Jordan Poole, and yet this week he's played out of his mind. Has he, in some ways this week, has he saved the Warriors, or at least an aspect of the Warriors season before our very eyes?
Saved the season? Whew. That's a really big compliment, but you're right that he's come on lately. I saw this stat. When you added up his points during the 4-game homestand, he had 108 points, but he's also playmaking for teammates. He just seems to have a knack right now to read what the game needs. Do they need him to draw the defense and play make for others, or do they need him to have those scoring bursts where he could drop a quick dozen? So I think something is working out for him right now. I don't want to question it. It's peaking at the right time. Let him go.
That's been magical over the last few games. Festus Ezeli and Mark and I have gotten into it over the idea of whether or not he can close games. Festus name-checking us the other night, which Bonte was all too quick to pile on. So
I saw that.
And Kerith, while we're in the space, if somebody was checking one of your teammates, say a Monty Poole, who is revered in this market, would you be quick to pile on, or would you defend a teammate?
I would defend a teammate.
Amen, sister.
I don't want to get involved in this, and I hope it was all in good fun. But yeah, I would defend a teammate. Yeah.
It always starts that way.
Yeah, it's all good fun.
It starts in a nice place.
Until we play this back tomorrow in the morning roast, and the headline is Burke turns on Bonte. And then, I appreciate you, though, Kerith. Thank you.
Kerith,
Yeah.
I know that we have a long ways to go still with the most important games to come. And you mentioned, the ups and downs this year. We're all too familiar with those. What has been the most pleasant surprise to you about the Warriors this season? And what would you say has been the biggest disappointment as far as their play so far this year?
Oh, guys, that's a big question. I mean, short term, the thing that just happened right in front of us is the return of GP2.
Mm-hmm.
How much that lifted the team, how much we're going to see that on defense. But how about just the hustle plays that he makes and the intensity that he brings to every game? And then he's got no problem being a menace on the floor and picking up a guy all 94 feet. So just the many ways that GP2 can lift the team. I think something that's a little underrated this season is Draymond's season. The intensity that he's brought to things, his rebounding, of course, his playmaking, but just his seriousness to capitalize on this moment. I mean, we know he's got some things maybe in this off season that he needs to decide. I don't know which way he's going to lean. So if this is the last time we see the trio of Steph and Klay and Draymond together, I feel like you're really seeing Draymond play for this moment to honor his teammates, to try to take this team as far as he can go, maybe even to get a sneaky defensive player of the year. He will always tell you that's one of his goals. So I think what Draymond is doing for the team has been essential. And, I think Draymond is doing it pretty banged up this season. You guys see that he still has that bandage on his left hand. He's still got those fingers taped. That's an injury that goes back to the last time the Warriors played the Blazers. That was around the All-Star break, I believe. So it's kind of one of those behind-the-scenes things, the ice packs, the tape, the heating pads, Draymond doing whatever he can to stay on the floor for his guys.
For him staying on the floor to Andrew Wiggins getting ready to return to the floor,
yes.
How big of an emotional lift will this be? And before you answer, now that you and I are pals and you had my back, I do just want to compliment you on the way you have always asked the Andrew Wiggins questions, because I know it's not always easy in those moments, but I feel like you asked the question in the correct way each and every time.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what, and guys, for a personal issue, the questions are very limited, in my opinion. I feel like there were 4 of them, basically. Let's see if I can run through them. So why is Andrew Wiggins out? Personal matter. Any other details you could share with us? It involves his family. Okay, gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that. What's the timetable for his return? We don't know. Is it possible he might be out for the season? No, we won't take it that far. There's hope that he'll return. Any other questions? I mean, please tell me if I'm missing something. But as a reporter, those feel like the fair and ethical questions to ask for a guy going through a personal issue. And there's always that ethical line. Like, I'm a curious person. It's my job to be curious. When it comes to something personal, I don't want my curiosity to turn into entitlement to know. So I'm glad that Andrew felt protected while he was gone, that his privacy was intact, that his team was really there for him. And so you're right, I did ask him, is there anything you want to share about what your family went through during your absence? And he said, no, I'd like to keep that private. And for me, that's where it starts and ends.
Kerith, great answer. If you ever asked someone an admittedly unwieldy question about what they thought was some of the best aspects of the season and what they were most disappointed in, and they never answered the second part, would you ask them that you come back with this second part, or hope that they would come?
I thought we were teammates.
No, I don't mean to pin you down on that, except I think there's some obvious ones here that are so fascinating, with the team with the fouls. To me, it's the turnovers, and we know that. And so I was wondering, when you look at this team, aren't there still some things where you go, man, this team, they've won all these championships, but why can't they straighten this one thing out? Is there one thing that stands out for you?
Yeah, of course. The thing that stands out is their home record versus their road record. And after maybe 10 examples of the same type of loss on the road, you would think there would be some sort of correction. and there hasn't been. They're still looking for their 10th road win of the season. The Warriors hoping and praying that comes on Friday because of the stakes in this game. But that's stark, and that's bad, and that's not the blueprint to defend as champions. That is a supremely weak spot, especially if the Warriors are not going to have home court advantage in the postseason if they're the 6, 7, or 8 seed. So that's the one for me. Why the discrepancy here? And then baked inside of that might be all of those reasons of defensive lapses, fouling too much, sending the opponent to the free throw line to get 3 points. And there was one more, turnovers. Yeah, turnovers. So there's just been a pattern to the problems this season, and that's been really puzzling.
Kerith, I apologize for the unpleasant nature with which you were confronted by that follow-up question. That's not who we are here on Willard and Dibs.
It was worth it.
That's a quality answer.
That was the softest confrontation, really.
Things are getting heated in here, Kerith. I tell you. Well, let me just ask one semi-hard question. What do you think happens with Bob Myers? What's going on there?
Have you sort of heard the post-game things that players are talking about? And maybe it was Draymond being very direct in that moment where Bob came down and talked to him in the fourth quarter of the game. He's like, you've made your point. Like, just go back out there, show up for your teammates. And post-game, Draymond said, what Bob tells me is Bible. And this whole season, you've gotten little things sprinkled into post-game comments or practice comments about how much the players trust Bob, how much continuity he's built, how much he's architected this dynasty, and how much they like to have him around. They compliment his emotional intelligence. They compliment his communication. And guys, just for who Bob is, he can be a buffer for a lot of things. He could be the buffer between ownership and the coaching staff. He can I think he just has a way about him that can squash a lot of things because he's an understanding human. We just saw the way that he allowed Andrew Wiggins to have a lengthy absence, to take care of his family, to put basketball first. And I think when this team is in the playoff hunt and they've been struggling to be above 500, there could have been other pressures there for Andrew Wiggins, but he got to take all the time he needed. So all of this just adds up to Bob Myers feels like the right guy for the moment. So I hope he comes back. And kind of what I'm reading between the lines is if he doesn't, there's going to be some grumbles from the big names on the team.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Kerith. And by the way, we're still working on the prototype for the Goose T-shirt, greatest of outside shooters ever. But when we get one off the production line, first one's on its way to you. So just,
That sounds fantastic. Hong Kong, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Work.
We appreciate it. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerith.
Wow. Surprising with the Goose. Bringing out the Goose herself there.
Listening to the program, and I think in favor of your new acronym.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
she honked. I don't think that you go ahead and you do the goose noise unless that you are you're on board. And I look forward to you producing the art.